Hello and welcome again. Um, feel like I want to continue this reflection um, about nature and our systems. Um, from the last video, just had a little pause, a break. It was interesting because felt like ending it there, or at least stopping it there, as my dog, which is nature, was calling from outside and making some noise. Felt like I wanted to go to him or see what's up. So it's in a way like, but and then took a nice break or a short break, ate some fruit. But it made me think about something as well. This example is like when nature is calling, I think it's wise to listen. It made me think about an approach to how we can, for example, or like shape systems or find solutions to our problems, which is maybe like the essence of systems as well, to find solutions to our problems. Thinking about these problems that are going on in the world in regards to nature, in regards to climate, feel or have a feeling or asking the question here also, are we truly listening to nature? Pointing at the importance of our own perspective. We can say we are listening to nature, but let's sit back a bit and think of it in a way like, what are we actually seeing when we look at nature? That depends a whole lot on our own perspective. Our understanding of what we are seeing depends a lot on our own perspective. And I would say that when we are disconnected from nature, we have a certain perspective about nature, we have a certain understanding about nature, but it's coming from that disconnection. Thus, I would say, leading to a perception that is not really, or at least this is giving an opening to, well, perhaps there could be a better perspective, which can actually, because when we are finding, it shapes the way we see the problem in our eyes, in our mind. Whereas when we take another or perspective through another perception, then the form in which we actually see the problem changes itself or has changed with that. And thus the solution to that problem also changes. And I feel this is a much, or at least a very interesting approach to how we can actually solve a lot of world problems. But let's stick a bit to nature here. When we see nature is doing things, fires currently, I guess, temperatures are changing. I encountered this in my garden. Certainly, this year feels different. Past couple of years have been feeling different. Not that I've been doing this my whole life necessarily, but thinking also of, well, changing environment can also be a good thing in many ways. For example, I have a strong feeling of, oh, I would actually like to grow my own fruits, my own avocados, stuff like that. The citric fruits, which often need a hotter climate, currently it's a bit difficult, but future-wise, this actually may become possible here. This is also interesting to approach this so-called problem, to seeing it as a nice opportunity. But again, we have to find a perspective which, or a consciousness state which allows us to move with the changes. Maybe also a question, can we change the changes? Or what is our role in this? To what degree are we participating in this? Or what is creating this change? What is, or why is the change happening? Because I see often with what we observe in the world, when we look at climate things, climate change, I still, or I have learned to approach this as nature balancing itself, or at least attempting to. Because then I see also we as a participant, we certainly have an influence as humans in this environment that we live in. Um, and I guess a lot of solutions can be found in questioning our own selves. What are we actually doing? Why are we actually doing this? Well, we can point at economical systems that I'm thinking of, often tied with a lot of greed, and really it's built on a disbalance, and always this kind of always needing to consume, or always needing to produce. Nature itself, or this is not a natural system. Nature itself, it produces, it consumes, but in a balance. That which is consumed cycles back into the production, else you move out of the balance and your system may eventually die out. The thing is also, something beautiful about nature is when you give it right conditions, it is actually able to produce a natural overflow, a natural abundance. And that's why I also feel like we as humans should be able to also set up our systems to also, well, also ourselves learn to live in such a way, and which brings us, then we can set up our systems which follow such an energy, which follow such a way of thinking, a way of living, which actually also brings us into uh, that environment or that world which actually provides that kind of a natural overflow, natural abundance. It may be difficult depending on one's own consciousness to imagine such a world. Then I think about my own process of maybe decondition myself a lot, in because I guess my conscious also used to have a lot of trouble imagining this. But then also, for example, also through working in the garden, seeing how nature actually works, that actually opened me up to it as well. Reflecting a lot, and then also asking the question, well, what makes it that we are not currently living in that state? There I feel, well, the way our systems are currently built up, it is ties to our values. Maybe values which I certainly experienced it as my like when we grow up into this world, we step into an environment, we step into a society. This society comes with values. Schooling systems comes with values. They sort of like give you these values consciously and unconsciously, and we're confronted with that. I guess we can then take them in or not. But I've been certainly questioning a lot of these values, and from that also finding my own values, finding my values that are in line with nature, much more in balance, much more in a coherent and sustainable way. And I feel so when we build our systems on those values, the system itself takes on a very different form. Um, but what seems to be pointing out here in my mind is us, ourselves. This I talk about systems, and yes, they can be changed, but realize we are the system. We are the participants in the system. We have actually the power to participate in a system, or also how do we participate in a system? Seeing it as a cyclical or a spiraling kind of motion, the system itself. So, like, what energy do we feed this system? That is how we actually, and also, well, what do we take out of it? A lot of that points to, well, us ourselves, our own values. The transformation really to that system in which our own environment in which we live can be made here, because it's this realization of that power shift when we it's one has to realize we actually have the power as a participant. We are the ones that make that wheel turn on an individual and a collective level, but the collective is a set of, or the combination of us as individuals. So this comes down to our own personal responsibility and accountability of how do we actually want to participate in this system, and ties in with the question of what world is it actually shaping. Then maybe projecting this back a bit at myself or looking at my own process, I have often found a lot of resistance towards stepping into a life of like a more traditional 9 to 5 type of life, and maybe going get a corporate job working somewhere. Feels like it doesn't fit for me. It doesn't match my values. I haven't really walked such a path, but I've certainly reflected a whole lot on it, as I was also, for example, feeling a lot of pressure from my own environment, of maybe and my own conditioning, even of stepping into such an environment. But I'm happy, and I'm seeing now how this brought me to this, what I'm actually doing here, being a conscious participant into the system. I feel like also earlier there was a lot of resistance for me to step into that system. Maybe because I was also trying to find how do I actually want to enter that system or participate in that. And I feel like this is actually now bringing, there was a whole process of, surely I can do this. I can go and become like a farmer. I had a lot about mushroom farming as well, an interest, but and surely this brings value to the system, to the whole, but then also reflecting a lot with myself about, well, but I feel I can actually bring more value in maybe a different way. Certainly I've grown a lot in this kind of, this is also what I really like to do, reflecting, sharing, or talking, using my mind, thinking and envisioning, asking these kind of questions, and feel this ties in with a vision of a system. Also, often as a system, I think another great example is the human body. And then all seeing, well, the human body, let's keep it maybe to the physical aspect of it now. It consists of all these different individual parts or participants, these cells, groups of cells, all working together or sometimes working against each other. We can have a healthy body, a healthy system. We can have a dysregulated, unhealthy, disbalanced body system. But seeing myself also as a cell within the human body, the bigger collective body I am talking about, what is my role in this bigger body? I feel this connects a lot to our own essence. And what I'm finding through experience is when we are really living in that essence, from that essence, living that, being that, comes with joy and brings actually a playful energy. We can when we really grow into it, we can be fully ourselves. We feel at the right place. This kind of resistance of I don't want to do this falls away. And I think this is beautiful for myself. I'm really happy with this, but also it feels like it is a pathway to being able to organize, or like in this vision, trying to imagine a world in which all the participants live in such a way. What would that actually look like? And without necessarily sticking to the physical form for now, thinking about the energy, I think all the cells within that body, all the individuals in the body would like to participate in that, would like to live in that, which is very interesting to think about because it changes the whole way the system is actually operating itself. Imagine yourself on an individual level when there is a job to do and you actually like doing this job, whereas when you hate the job, when you like it, it's gonna carry a whole different energy. The quality of the job being done is also going to be very different. And so what would be the result of a system that is organized in such a way that the participants are living in their essence, are actually feeling fulfilled in the job that they are doing? Finding this is a real challenge. I would say it takes a lot of individual transformation of all the participants. And again, also, like, you cannot even force this on all the individuals, which is also very interesting. It raises a question within me of, is our environment maybe actually bringing us in such a system, or in such an organization set up into wholeness, into unity? To ask that question when we observe what is actually going on in the world, I think that is an interesting light, because often, or it can certainly bring lightness to what we observe in the world, which can often feel much more chaotic, or like even heavy kind of energy. Um, yeah, I feel like leaving it here for this video. Have a good one.